Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head back to Belgium once again, and we're going to revisit a brewery that I've not had anything from in maybe about a year or two, something like that, but I was very impressed with the last beer that I had from them. So we're going to go to Wallonie today, or Wallonie, however you want to actually pronounce it, or whichever language you wish to use to name it actually, because Belgium is a dual language country I guess. And for this one we are going to revisit Brouwerij de Ranke. So this one is the Cuvee De Ranke, coming in at 7% ABV. So this one is a mix of a couple of different beers actually. So this one is one of their old sour beers that they've used for this, and also a lambic I think from Girardin if I'm remembering correctly. But it comes in at 7% ABV and it should be really nice. I really have been enjoying these sour Belgian beer reviews that I've been doing for you over the last little while. So really looking forward to this one. This is a brewery that I was very impressed with before, and hopefully it will be a nice experience trying my first sour beer from them. And as always, I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Brouwerij de Ranke before. No doubt I will add some more in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Belgian beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Brouwerij de Ranke then. So Brouwerij de Ranke are based in a little town called Dottignes, which is in the Hainaut province of Wallonia in southwest Belgium. And this brewery is run by Nino Baselli, who's been experimenting with brewing since 1981. But the family owned a beer bottling and lemonade production facility which opened in Belgium sometime around 1930 under Germain Noffels. He then passed the company on to his daughter Irene Noffels and then son-in-law Napoleon Baselli in 1948, who also founded the Valpo soft drink brand. But Nino started brewing beer in 1981 and took over the company with his brother a few years later in 1986, and a few years after that in 1989 they closed down the soft drinks factory, and then Nino's brother took over the brewing while Nino went to work in a refrigeration company. After home brewing for a number of years as a hobby, Nino decided to form his own company in 1994, and he brewed his beers at Deca Brewery in Vosten. But the following year he met Guido de Vos, and in 1996 they pooled resources and then founded Brouwerij de Ranke, the name of which is taken from the vines on which hops actually grow. So yeah, quite a classic name that actually, if you know the local language and things like that. But over the next few years they brewed more and more beers, and then in 2005 they opened their own brewery in Dottignes, and they currently export beer to various different countries. I think it's somewhere in the region of 10 or 15 countries that they're exporting to. They employ 6 people, so still a very small operation, and they're gradually expanding their production up to 10,000 hectolitres of beer per year, and they do seem to be really quite well regarded actually. There's quite a lot of the beers from Brouwerij de Ranke seem to have very high ratings. In particular, if you look on rate beers, I always say though, take rate beer with a bit of a pinch of salt. It is a good barometer, but it's not, you know, the Odin's word or whatever when it comes to your beers. But this beer had a 98 overall and a 96 within the sour beer category, so it should be pretty nice. But there's a lot of different beers from them there. They like to experiment with hops and with sour beers mainly, but it's a brewery from Belgium that you definitely want to check out because they're always doing some interesting stuff, and they seem to be fairly experimental as well, so just keep that in mind. It's always cool when you go to the traditional beer countries like Belgium, Germany and Czech, and you find these breweries that are just experimenting with new styles and stuff, because they've got very highly trained brewers, and it's always cool when they put their attention to some of the new world beer styles and things like that. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about Brouwerij de Ranke just now. Quite a new brewery in the grand scheme of Belgian beer, but they are very well respected already, which is always a good thing. But yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself then. So as I mentioned to you, this one is a 7% sour beer. From what I understand, this is a blend. A cuvee beer is always a blend, of course, but this particular beer is a blend of one of their old sour beers and also a beer from Girardin as well. So yeah, Girardin are one of the famous lambic producers too. So yeah, let's get this guy out then and we'll get on with the tasting. 7% ABV. I'll just have a little look at the artwork and things like that. It has a few things on the side here. Yeah, it just tells you a little bit about the ingredients. Not too much on the front actually. It's quite, as I say, it's basically this little paper thing. I think is just supposed to protect it. But like I said at the start of the video, this was one of the small partiers that came through Systembol. I believe I got this one at the end of April, but I just didn't get around to actually drinking it. But it's a Sunday evening, we're having a nice barbecue, so I thought this is a good time to open this one up. So we'll get it out and we'll see how we get on with this. There we go. So, oh yeah, so it's pretty straight up label, this one. There you can see Cuvee De Ranke, 70% Belgian sour ale with 30% lambic brewed added to it. So yeah, that will be the Girardin lambic, but it will be 70% of De Ranke's own beer. But yeah, quite nicely presented, quite plain actually. But without further ado, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. I'm really curious to see how this beer turns out, because I really have no idea. But this one was bottled apparently in June 2018, and it says the expiry date on the cap is the 7th of June 2023. So you can age these. Oh, there we go. So you can age these for a couple of years actually, but we'll just be careful with this. There is a hell of a lot in the bottle there. But yeah. Didn't think it would do that, but I guess when it's been sitting for a while it's not overly surprising. I just saw it rising there. There you are. So yeah, as you can see with this beer then, it's poured a really nice, quite rich amber colour actually. It's almost the same colour as like a double IPA or something like that. But yeah, a really nice, rich amber colour. I'm getting a lot of nice, quite sweet, yeasty and biscuity notes coming out of this one straight up. And you can see though, the colour on that is absolutely beautiful. If I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see it's got that lovely, slightly hazy amber note to it. There's a solid finger of a frothy, I would say kind of creamy coloured head on this one actually. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass and a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there. But you know, overall it looks very, very nice. So yeah, let's take a closer look at the aroma and just see how we get on with this, because to be honest, I'm not sure whether exactly what to expect for this one, because cuvées are always very different actually. Oh yeah, when you get your nose into this one a little bit more. Yeah, when you get your nose into this beer a little bit more, it definitely becomes more of a kind of grainy, biscuity type thing, to be honest with you. It really has, it's got that nice doughy, bready, yeasty thing that you would always expect of Belgian beers, but it really has a nice sort of, you can smell a little bit of the sweet wheaty smoothness to it, but it has a little bit of a kind of grainy thing in there. There's also a little bit of a biscuity malt to it as well, which is kind of interesting. But other than that, it smells quite grassy, and there's a little bit of floral quality in there, a little bit of a slightly lemony citrus, and some kind of peary appley ester as well. In fairness, when I think about it, when I've had cuvées before, they're not, you know, they're not overly punchy in terms of their aroma. They are a lot more subtle in things. There's maybe a little touch of a woody element to this one as well, and I'm guessing, you know, this beer, you know, it's sour beers and stuff, you will get a little bit of a woody element from the lambic side of the beer. And also, you know, the regular sour beer might have a little touch of a woody element to it as well. But, you know, overall, it's quite a straight up smelling sour beer, this one. Nice woody notes. To me, this one smells a little bit sweeter than some of the other ones that I've come across. A little bit of vanilla note coming out of this beer too. Some nice wheaty smoothness. Bit of a grainy quality. Some biscuity notes, as I said. Grassy and floral hops. A little bit of a lemon tartness in there. Some peary appley esters. But you know, pretty much everything you could expect from a kind of regular sour beer, but a lovely, lovely almost double IPA type amber colour on this beer. So yeah, as I always say, take a little bit of time and just enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But we're going to have a taste of this one now and just see how we get on. So this one is the Cuvee De Ranke from Brouwerij de Ranke in Dottignes, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, in Wallonie in Belgium. Let's get stuck in. Slange, Skull, Proust, Salty. Cheers. Ooh, that's quite unusual, that, actually. Take a little sip of this straight away and just let your mouth adjust to it, but then take a couple other ones after. It always takes you a few sips to get into some of these sour beers, to be honest with you. And definitely sugar it around your palate a little bit. You really have to let your whole mouth adjust to these things. But yeah, I described this in quite a few of the videos, but the thing that always makes a good sour beer for me is the thing that always makes a good sour beer for me is just you always get a nice impact, and then it's the way that the beer smooths out. This one smooths out really quite nicely. It's got a really different flavour profile to it compared to some of the other sour beers that I've had. But I do like how this one comes across. You've definitely got a good woody, grainy aspect to this beer. It's not quite as sweet as the aroma would have you believe, to be honest, but it's got a really nice woody, grainy quality to it, like I was saying. You need a few sips of this beer to get your head around this one properly. Yeah. That's nice. I'm going to say straight away, thumbs up to Brouwerij de Ranke for this one. They've pulled off another really quite nice beer. This one's very unusual on the palate compared to some of the other ones that I've had, but I really like what they've done with this. I can see straight away, like I said, this beer had a 98 or a 96 or something like that overall on rate beer, which you should always take with a pinch of salt, but I can see exactly why this beer is quite so highly rated. So yeah, let's try and suss this beer out a little bit more then. So straight away, you're going to feel with this beer, it's got a lovely, it's just got a lovely lightness to the middle of the palate there. You can feel it's almost a little bit like a kind of pale malty quality. You can feel that there, but it's really got this grainy dryness to it that comes out the further you go into the aftertaste. If you come a little bit further forward on the palate as well, you've got a nice kind of you've got a nice woody element to this beer also, which is really quite unusual actually. There's a little bit of vanilla sweetness. If you just go to the centre of your palate and then come forward a little bit, I'm finding there's a little vanilla subtlety in there. Definitely for me, the front of the palate is a little bit smoother and sweeter than the back of the palate. The back of the palate, I think, is a little bit more woody and dry. There's definitely a grainy element to the beer, as I was mentioning. Yeah, that's really nice. If you get the chance to try this beer, I think it's quite a rare one to come across actually, unless of course you're living fairly close to the brewery in Belgium. But yeah, the way that everything in this beer goes together is really pretty good, I have to say. The graininess, you do find this beer does become a little bit drier the further that you go into it, but it really does kind of pull it pulls all these flavours together really well. This is definitely one of these beers that does a really good job at putting the flavours together, and the malty side of this beer is the very kind of unusual and quirky thing for me. I really don't know if there's other Belgian sour beers that you can compare this to, but I really like how the malt base goes together. There's also a little bit of a sweetness to this one. If you go into the very centre of your palate, there's a little touch of a caramelly note to it, but that's quite minimal. It is more about the kind of biscuity side of things. When you go out from the centre of your palate there, and you get more of a kind of biscuity, grainy note to this beer. It's almost like McVitie's digestives actually. I like how everything goes together in this one, to be honest. Yeah, that's nice. I keep saying it, but have a go at the beer for yourself and just and see what you think. This is one that's a little bit difficult to describe, if I'm honest, just because it is pretty unusual. So yeah, it's a real quirky one, this. I do like it. On the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of an earthiness in there. I do think they've used Belgian hops in this one, to be honest. I've always found that Belgian hops have a slightly darker earthiness, almost akin to the earthiness you get from the English hops. But it's got a little bit more of the floral quality you'd expect to the German one. So definitely a little bit of an earthy quality there in the back corners of the palate, quite a dark earthy quality, to be honest with you. As you come further forward, it's a little bit more herbal, then you get some nice floral aromaticity towards the front corners of the palate, and round the very front curve of the tongue it's just that little bit lighter and grassy. But you do have a nice kind of citrusy element to the grassiness in this beer as well, which is interesting. But yeah, the fruity side of the beer is quite sharp. It has a little bit of a red fruity quality to it. There is a little bit of a kind of candied red fruit going on in here, but at the same time it is almost like a very sharp, sort of appley, peary kind of thing that's going on here. There is a good bit of a really dark, strong citrus quality to this beer, which is interesting. It's almost like a very strong appley. It reminds me a little bit of mousse, to be honest. It really has a very strong appley sharpness to it, this beer, in my opinion. But there is a little bit of a red fruity quality starts to come out of the beer. I noticed it at the beginning. There is a red fruity element to this beer, but there really is a sharp, appley, almost slightly ciderish quality to this beer in terms of the fruitiness. As I always say, the fruity part of the beer comes out in that little oily bubble behind the front curve of the palate, but to me it's a very strong lemony citric tartness you get from this one, but it blends together with this almost appley, slightly ciderish quality. It has a little bit of that sharpness to it, but there's some peary notes in there as well, maybe a little touch of like a gooseberry kind of thing as well. And the further you go into the aftertaste, that lemony note just lingers there, and you've also got a little bit of there is a little bit of a slightly candied red fruit in this beer for me. But this is a really interesting beer. This isn't like any other sour beer that I've come across before. I don't know what kind of lambic it is that they've brewed. I know it's a Girardin one, but I don't know if it's a Gose or what it is. I would guess that it's a Gose of some description, just going by the colour of the beer. But yeah, it comes across very nicely, this one, and this is a very, very quirky beer. So have a go at it for yourself and just see what you think. It was quite cool actually to get this through the small partiers in Systembolaget. And it wasn't too expensive, this either. I think it was only around 120 crowns or something for us. So for a big beer, this one, especially a big Belgian sour beer, I thought that was pretty decent actually in terms of the price. So yeah, get a hold of this if you get the chance. There probably are a few still left in the boutique stores in Copenhagen and Stockholm and Gothenburg and stuff like this, or maybe you can still order it from the web shop and stuff. But yeah, a really interesting sour beer, this one. Definitely a little bit more grainy than the other ones, but it's got a really interesting fruity side to it as well, and the hops are a little bit more present, I think, too. And from what I remember of De Ranke, they are a little bit more of a hop forward brewery. But yeah, big thumbs up to them on this. I do like what they've done here, and to play around with a cuvee is always an interesting art. There's so much you can do with them, and you can balance them in all sorts of different ways, but they have done a nice job with this one. So yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, I would describe this beer as fairly mid-bodied, I think. Yeah. Definitely a mid-bodied beer. You might consider this one, I've always found the sour beers to be a bit lighter in their bodies just than all the other beer styles because of that tartness that it has, so maybe this one is a little bit heavy in terms of being a sour beer, but a nice, really quite, it does have a little bit of a prickle of the carbonation in the beginning, but it smooths out very nicely, this beer. Overall, I would describe the mouthfeel as being quite oily. Nice little bit of hoppy bitterness to the beer. I think you're talking maybe around 40-ish IBUs with this beer, maybe 30. It does have a nice little bit of a floral, grassy, herbal kind of thing going on, which is really nice. Nice smoothness to the malt base. It's got a little bit of sweetness from the woody elements, and also there's a little touch of vanilla in there, but it really dries out and becomes a bit more grainy the further you go into the aftertaste, and some lovely juicy fruity characters this one as well. Quite a strong appley citric note to this one, a little bit of an appley lemon kind of dual going on there, and it has a little bit of a kind of candied fruity note in the aftertaste too. But overall, a very nice beer, this one, and I wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. I don't know if I'd quite buy as big a bottle as this, but I'm going to share this with some friends anyway at the barbecue. But it is quite a nice beer, this one, and definitely more of a kind of grainy, woody type sour beer, this one, which is very nice. But I like this one, and I definitely want to try a few more beers from De Ranke over the next little while. So yeah, make of that as what you will. But thank you once again for watching my beer reviews. As always, please let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Brouwerij de Ranke as well, and I'm sure we'll return to these guys at some point in the coming months and years and stuff like this. But a really interesting brewery, this one. They're getting a lot of plaudits rather throughout Wallonie. But thank you again for watching. Make sure you check out my social media, and I will catch you guys very soon. This one is the Cuvee De Ranke from Brouwerij de Ranke in Dottignes, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, in Wallonie in Belgium. Really interesting beer, this one, and it was really cool to review it for you. Until the next time, slàinte just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slàinte, skål, prost, santé.